Finally, we have some exciting news to report. Last year, we shared with you our vision to take this celebration of courage from one powerful night in one powerful city to celebrating courage every day, everywhere, with It Takes Courage. Well, we did it. We now shine a light on and inspire courage every day through our website, ittakescourage.world, and on our 6 social media platforms where you can find and share stories of courage, big and small, seen and unseen. In addition, we held our very first Global Courage Awards in Panama City, Panama on May 15th, where we celebrated courage in Latin America with 2 new awards for courage, a Youth Award and a Truth Award. So we begin tonight with the story of the recipient of our first Global Courage Award for Truth, Maria Machado.
She's relentless, a fierce adversary of Venezuela's leftist government. Congresswoman Ana Corina Machado leads a hard-line wing of the opposition and is either admired or nosed like few Venezuelan politicians. Machado is a fierce anti-communist who never tires of denouncing Cuba's strong influence in the government. Even her detractors concede she's gutsy. Machado scored points when she confronted deceased President Hugo Chavez during a State of the Nation address. When students began protesting against violence and shortages, Machado called for all Venezuelans to take to the streets to force out Chavez's democratically elected successor, Nicolás Maduro.
Venezuela's top court upheld a 15-year ban on opposition leader Ana Corina Machado holding public office. President Nicolás Maduro's government announced this ban in June, days after she officially declared her presidential candidacy.
How does it feel to be perhaps the most vilified person in this country?
This is a matter of will. Every single person you see in the street now is a volunteer, and we will fight for a transition to democracy. We have the support of a majority of the population.
Ana Corina Machado is one of the strongest critical voices of the Maduro regime in Venezuela. As one of the main opposition leaders in the country, she bravely raises her voices on behalf of so many of her compatriots who stand for freedom and democracy. And for that, and that alone, the Venezuelan authorities portray Ana Corina as a traitor and a terrorist, recognized as one of the most influential women in the world. Back home in Venezuela, Ana Corina has been banned from holding public office and subject to numerous threats of imprisonment, as well as threats to her life. The recipient of many international awards for her courage in defending democracy and the rule of law, she's been accused of high treason, terrorism, and conspiracy.
Ana Corina Machado speaks of an existential fight that is much greater than any presidential election. She is replacing humiliation for dignity, division for unity, and suppression for hope. Guided by her courage and truth, she has restored hope to millions of Venezuelan families. Our country is facing a moment of reckoning, and Ana Corina Machado is our beacon of hope.
The top United Nations human rights official today criticized Venezuelan authorities for what he called arbitrary detentions and disproportionate use of force, more than 2 weeks after elections that the opposition says it won.
In downtown Caracas, they lit candles to demand democracy, but also memorialize what they called their lost freedom and the regime's opponents who've been disappeared since they demanded President Nicolás Maduro step down for allegedly stealing last month's election.
Maduro said a couple days ago, I'm a terrorist. The regime knows that the defeat they suffered was huge. The world knows that Venezuelan people voted for change, and we have the proofs. And at this point, the only thing Maduro has done is use violence and be surrounded by the top ranks of the military. But this is not sustainable. We will not surrender, we will not give up, and we ask for the democratic world to accompany the Venezuelan people on this struggle for freedom.
Please welcome the daughter of Maria Machado, Ana Corina Sosa.
Thank you. Good evening, distinguished guests and members of the Yohide Foundation. Thank you for having me tonight. Much has happened since we last gathered in Panama this past May, when I accepted the Global Courage Award for Truth on behalf of my mother, Maria Corina Machado. Despite the challenges, the cheating, and the intimidation by the regime, Venezuela delivered a decisive blow to Nicolás Maduro on July 28th of 2024 in the Venezuelan presidential elections, with 70% of the vote against the dictator. But even more impressive was the civic movement behind this victory, a testament of courage, determination, and an unprecedented level of civic organization. The 600K network serves as a blueprint for democratic elections across the world. And it comprised of thousands of witnesses present at more than 99% of polling stations across Venezuela. And on top of that, sat 70,000 comanditos, which is a small community, civic groups organized to support and protect our electoral witnesses. Altogether, over 1 million Venezuelan citizens participated in this organization the day of the presidential elections. The result? More than 83% of the electoral tally sheets were retrieved, safeguarded, and scanned for the world to see. Every one of you can now access this public site and see proof of the Venezuelan people's will. This is one of such electoral tally sheets, through which we unequivocally proved that Edmundo González Urrutia beat the dictator Nicolás Maduro with a historic margin. But what unfolded after the July 28th elections was a brutal, repressive, and unrestrained campaign of terror by the regime. Every single Venezuelan who participated in the electoral process is either in political asylum, hiding, imprisoned, or dead. Our president-elect was forced into exile in Spain, and my mother, Maria Corina Machado, has been in hiding in Venezuela for more than 70 days, with constant threats on her life. Yet she is among the fortunate ones. Thousands of unnamed democracy heroes are held captive in Venezuelan torture centers, with children under 18 years old enduring starvation, torture, and deprived of medicine. Some accounts describe how these children are subjected to electric shocks, have their body parts burned, and are isolated for days at a time. Denied any fair legal processes, their mothers stand outside prison gates, screaming in pain, desperate to hear from them, desperate for any signs of life. I don't know where my mother is today, or when I'll see her again, or when I'll be able to return home to Venezuela. But I do know that we remain undeterred, because our fight is far more than any presidential election. This is an ethical struggle for truth, an existential struggle for life, and a spiritual struggle for freedom. The Venezuelan crisis is a universal cause because it stands for the integrity of liberal democracy and the sovereignty of nations. To those of you here tonight, I implore you, don't give up on us, as we certainly will not. Thank you.